Hi everybody, my name is Mr. Dunn, and this is Mr. Dunn's ceramics class. And I got a new project for you today. We are going to make pinch pots. Let's get started. Alright, let's get started. So the whole point here is to get a little closer, more intimate here, so you can see what I'm talking about and not be far off on the other end of the classroom. Hi people in the back. So, pinch pot. We used to just make little things like this, little vessels, little pinch pots, first thing. But we realized we could do more than that. So we started adding some texture. And that still was too easy for me. So I thought, let's put on a footing, which is what it stands up on, right? And so we started making the footings and adding textures. So here's the bowl, the pinch pot, and we add things onto it. So these are all different ones we've made over the years, little short ones. You just roll out some clay. We'll talk about scoring it and hooking it on. I'll show you all that in this first project. But here's just some different examples. All right. Always trying to make it unique, trying to make it your own, because in a classroom, and I've got 4 classes this semester, you can imagine how many of these will be on the cart going into the kiln and coming out of the kiln, and they all, if you got 5 that are the same color, what have you done to it to make it look like it's yours? So it stands out to be yours. It looks a little different. Alright, so you can see a variety of sizes. This is, you're all going to get about the same amount of clay to make your pinch pot here. But how you make your base, what colors you use, what carve-ins, writing you do, or textures you put in the side of it. You can see this texture underneath the glaze, little dimples, or carving the side. All that's unique, right? It's really hard to make a bunch of things that are the same in this class. Everything becomes different. Everyone has their own style, their own look. And they develop that by playing with it over time. Alright, so now I'm going to get some clay out. I'm going to show you how to do this. If you come to get your own clay for this project, we'll be teaching you how to use the clay cutter here. You'll get it to the thickness that you want. This thing slides up and down. If any teachers are wondering how much clay I'm giving students, put it on here, just go across. I've already done it, but I'll do it again. See? Put your thumbs here, other fingers on this thing, and you can pull it across. Okay. If you just pull on this thing, it comes up and doesn't make a flat cut. You need to keep this either vertical or slightly vertical all the way across. Now you have a straight cut across here. Then I just simply cut these straight down, pull the slab up, do it the other way, and go back and forth and saw it in like this. Pick it up and do it like this in the air. So what I'm doing is I'm getting four pieces out of one slab, and I'm giving every student one of these squares. Alright? So let's take this one. Of course, when you're done using the bag of clay, always close it. If nobody's here to get it behind you, you can put that on it to keep it closed. I don't think I'm going to need more clay for a while. I'm just going to like that. Upside down. Solid band. Alright, we're back. We're ready. We've picked up our clay in this little square piece. So before we get started though, because this is the first project, I want to introduce you to the box of tools and 2 things you can do to keep your table a little cleaner. As you can see, I just set this down already, and we have black tables, and it makes it all white haze, which I'm sure they're going to be like that for the rest of the year until we do cleanings. If you don't want to have a big mess to clean up, we have lots of these canvas boards wrapped in canvas, like for, right? You work on here, and the clay does not stick to this well, which is great, but it also takes water out of the clay and sucks it into there. If you already have dry clay, you're a little worried about that. We also have tons of placemats. You can work on top of a placemat. It's a little lighter. In this case, I'm going to use a placemat because I'm going to be spinning the clay, and in this, hopefully, let's see, it's going to be sliding. I can spin that on there, see? This is a little heavier, but the board won't do that as well. But if you have something big and this is floppy, so you don't want that. If you're doing something big and fragile here, you can lift the whole thing up, put it in your bag, come back the next day, keep working. So you can see that they each have their advantages in different situations in which you would use these 2 things. And you don't need to use either if you don't want. Depends what you're trying to do. Put that one over there, and we're going to use this. Second thing I have at my desk, you should have water at your desk.
Don't be afraid to clean that out every day. Be sure to dump it into the buckets in the sink, not into the sink, because all that sludge inside of this that builds up will be captured before it goes down the drain, clogs the drains. So protect your drains from being clogged. We have an old system here at this school that will clog and needs to be routed and cleaned out, rooted out. So you're going to take this, you're going to pound it back and forth into a nice ball. Make a snowball, just like you're making a snowball. It deforms every time you hit it, but then once you're done hitting it really hard, then you start softening up your hits. And just keep twisting it, start making it as round as you can. Look for the deformed shapes, parts that stick out. The curve of your hand is what you're going for right there, around everywhere. Okay? Alright, pretty round there, pretty good. How do we make the pinch pot now? So from this ball, take your thumb and push into it. So you can see it here. I'm going to go like this. And push down in there like that. And I got like a hole in there, right? Switch the other side here. It's going to go on your fingernails. Don't worry about it. You'll clean them later. Alright, so you've got a hole in there. Now, if you get a little bit bigger, you can get both hands in there. So I'm going to change positions so you can see this better. Right here, see? I'm going to put both thumbs in there. I'm going to twist this a little bit and grab and pinch. I'm pinching a little bit. Trying to figure out the bottom thickness. I'm down here. So I'm trying to get it about as thick as a finger, this thick. The whole thing. So what we've done is we got the bottom the right thickness here, but we have all this ball donut of clay here. And as we go up, we're going to pinch this clay and push this ball up, and we're going to just spin it. Kind of like those pottery wheels, you know? And you can always chase any cracks as they go, smear them out. If it gets dry, you'll need to use some water on there because it'll start cracking. They're cracking. See it cracking here? As you go, I'm slowly going around in a circle. Trying to bring it up more than out, but you can bring it any direction you want. You can also pinch it back closed like that, so you can just collar it with them going all the way around it and pinching it, and we can try to bring it together. Another way to do that is to support it on the table and spinning it here so you can actually let go with both hands and grab with both hands, because in the air it's a little bit more difficult. I'm just going in circles, just spinning it, chasing after while it's nice and soft. All these cracks, we'll do more to the cracks in a minute here, but alright, now for the sake of expediency, try to bring it all up so it's the same thickness. I'm looking for anything now that's thicker in one place than anywhere else. It all feels like it's the same thickness. And we've got this going on. Cool, huh? Alright, smooth out those edges. We'll use a sponge. So now I want to get it more even everywhere. One way to get the top ring a little more even, pinch below any areas that are extra low. Let's see if we can find something like that. Like right here it's a little lower than these two ridges. If I pinch down below it, it pushes up that side. So there's that. Let me get below it and see, I'm looking at across it at an angle. So there's that. Then you can also go upside down, tap it on your desk, and that'll give you a nice even. If you go too much, you'll get this big round ball that's being pushed down. It also shows you the areas that are thicker and the areas that are thinner to watch out for. Because what we don't want is this. I get kids doing that all the time. Before you're done the day, this will have cracks, be cracking all over and falling apart, and you'll have to probably want to start over, right? So while it's still soft, let's get that back down. You need to have a thicker rim, pretty much on anything you make that has a rim. Else it will crack all apart. Okay? A little thick right down there. I'm going to go around. There we go. So another way now to start smoothing things out. So one way to smooth all this out here is to roll it little bit by little bit on a smooth surface, and your desk is super smooth. So then it'll get rid of all those fingerprint indentations on the outside and leave them on the inside. Alright, starting to smooth it out. You can do the bottom there, around that. There we go, getting pretty smooth. Cool. Alright. Then you can also decide at this point what's the shape going to be more like. This is getting to look like this one, right? Where I would do 3 legs. It can't really sit on a round bottom. You can leave it, it can be round, so it would always just fall to one side no matter how you set it down. That could be fun. if you want to, you tap it and you start to create a bottom as big as you want. The more you pound it down, the fatter it's going to go, and the more around the cylinder it'll be, right? I like a little thin bottom. So now you can spin it on the table, on this flat bottom, and run your thumb in a circle. And just be dragging your thumb in this circle as you go around, and it'll help start to get rid of all of those finger marks on the inside, indentations and things. And take it to a little more of a refined level, right? A lot of people like to just stop right there, and it's got all the finger marks. Let's smooth it out. Alright, now we're down to the last part. It's starting to get a little dry and cracking, so I'm going to dip my fingers into water. One thing you got to be careful with water is that you can use too much. You can like dip the whole thing in there. I've seen kids do that thinking this is the solution to all my problems, and then it becomes a slimy mess. As you imagine, this is clay that's dried to the right consistency to play with, to manipulate. You get back to that, you get to mud, and it doesn't drag the clay across the cracks well when it's really wet. You just slide back and forth over it. But if it's at a certain point, the water starts to be sucked away in your hand and in the clay, and all of a sudden it starts to grab, and that's the best part, because you can push it over the cracks and smooth out these cracks. See? Right now it's really sticky in my hand after getting it wet, and then it'll start to get too dry again, and then you'll dip your finger in there. Even when we rolled it on the table, it doesn't get rid of the cracks. You've got to rub like this. And of course, keeping the shape while you do that will help get rid of the cracks. Because as soon as if you bend it again and start doing this, start doing this to it constantly, you're opening up those cracks that want to be in there. So you can get as much as you can with that. Sometimes you can do it all that way. Other times you need a tool like this that is smooth. This has cut edges, and I'm going to show you what that's for in a minute, but there's other versions of the exact same thing that are totally smooth, and you can scrape your tool with it. You do want to get off all the dry clay off of it. You either got to go wash it in the sink or scrape it off on the edge of your desk. And then you can curve that sometimes with your fingers, and you can rub like this at an angle. See the angle? I'm not going straight on, because when you come in and hit that, it's going to make a mark. But if you go at an angle, you won't get that mark. And then you crisscross. Go around and crisscross this. And that, if you're having some big crack problems, that will really help, because this will move more clay. Oops, see I gouged it. I'm using the wrong tool. This might help you move along faster in getting rid of those finger marks. If you really want to refine a smooth pot here, right? That helped a lot. You can get a little bit. At some point, one of the last things you can do is wring out a sponge on there, and you can wipe it all down. That'll also move clay into the cracks as well. It'll keep it from cracking, keeping things moist. And you get this really soft looking project. Evens everything out. Going again, different directions, crisscrossing, going around, going down. Try not to torque the whole thing too much. Just had a bump there that didn't want to go away. And the light's different angles, you can see the different indentations and how smooth you are. So you can just chase after that as long as you want until it gets as smooth as you want. Let's get the rim moist here. Then I've got a lot of fingernail marks in there because I was just holding it that way. But this time I can cup it this way and I won't get that in there. Those are my shorter nails on that hand. There. So I'm going around inside here and smoothing out the last little marks and tool marks or finger marks. So it's one of the last things you use is a sponge to get rid of, see this stuff? It can do a little, it can't do big problems, but it can take care of little. You can drag that clay sideways pretty softly, right? Like if I want to get rid of all these shadows in here, I'd have to re-scrape or re-pinch. But it gets rid of a lot of the tool marks and fingernail marks in my case. See? So pretty smooth. There. So we're good all the way around. Now I have something worth working with. Whether I want to put on my legs or not. So let me come back down here. Actually, I need more clay. So I need to go get more clay at this point, unless I'm going to draw or do anything on it. But I think I want to get all my legs on there first, even though they'll be sticking out. Then I know where they're hooking on, and I can write around it or put textures around it, things like that. Okay? So let's get more clay. All right, so I went back and got more clay. And I've cut 4 equal pieces here. So if you want to make a
footing with 4 little feet, you would use these 4 equal pieces of clay. Try to get them cut into equal pieces. In my case, I think I'm going to want to make, thinking of changing the shape and turning this into a little like a miniature pouring thing. All right, so I don't know if there's enough there for a handle, but 4 legs to get it off the ground would be 3 legs, a tripod effect. I like the look of a tripod better. If I'm doing this, how do I hook the foot on there? I know we just want to smear it on. Then the bottom will not connect well. So let me demonstrate that with this clay here. If I cut this clay in half, so I have 2 pieces of clay, and like this leg and body, I want to hook them together, and I just push them together like this, right? Push it together really hard, wait a while, come back tomorrow, it's fallen off. It doesn't want to stick together. It's a problem. I mean, I really smashed it there. It just falls apart super easy. So I end up blending it like that, right? And I blend that across, and then it falls, it still pops loose and breaks off. So the way to get clay to rejoin as if it was one piece again is you have to introduce scoring. This is scoring. You're going to hear me say it a million times. And you didn't score it. That's why it fell apart. You can avoid being that person by doing it. For anything you connect, even a little teeny round ball, you want to make an eyeball, scratch the back of the eyeball, scratch the back of your head, and a little bit of water and shove it in. Next is you need water on there. I don't have my brush. Well, we use paint brushes, and we put a little water. I'm going to put droplets on here. So you reintroduce the water into the clay and some scratching. Then all those ridges and try to put them together in a way that they line up the ridges on bigger pieces. So the ridges go into each other, you know, in the clay. Push that together. Right, then you can go around blending your edges, hooking it all together, make a smooth, seamless connection. And that will be just so much stronger than, I'm making a slimy mess now, than just pushing it together. You'll have much more success throughout your ceramic career, because you're going to make a livelihood of this, aren't you? Using scoring, slipping, and blending. So those are 3 steps. Scored it, connected it, blended it, right? And that's what's going to hold it together. So again, we've stuck this back together. Now I'm going to show you one last thing, because this video would be fast. We just talked about a pinch pot. Blend this all back together. So I got this chunk of clay. I'm going to now show you how to use the slab roller for this project as well in order to make this. Because if you try to roll this out by hand and stuff, it often ends up too thick and too heavy. So most of the slabs of clay you're going to want to use the big roller we have. So let's take a look at that. You can always use a rolling pin if you're at home. This is our slab roller. It's pretty cool. So you have 2 pieces of canvas here. You've got to put the clay in between it. Let me go this way. Sometimes if it's not long enough, it'll always make it longer whatever way you roll it. So you can throw it down like this and see how it stretches the clay out? And that way when I go I can get even longer. Or if I want to go this way, it'll make a square. It'll push the clay into a square. If I go this way, it'll push the clay even longer out that way. So it goes in between the 2 canvases, up against the wheel, and I'll have people putting big round balls in there. It doesn't work. You're going to have to flat it a little bit. Otherwise it just hits this wall here. Pull back on the canvas a little bit and turn the big wheel. Goes right through super easy, and you get a thickness, right? You adjust the thickness with these things. Please don't touch those. I'll do it for you to make it even. So it's the same. All right, so now we have this. Let's go back to our desk. Hey, I'm back. Let's now cut this into a long rectangle with all these pieces you're going to get in different projects. Keep them in a ball together and keep adding to the big ball. Add water, and that will keep it much softer and usable an hour from now when you want to use this clay, rather than, oh, this is all dried garbage now, and you throw it away. Get a lot of that. So let's cut this piece here. Put it to there. Now we need to measure. If we're not going to do legs, we're going to do a cylinder. You'll notice it doesn't fit nicely together. It's got to be square, and I'll show you a trick in just a second. So this is how big I got. Does that feel good? You want to look like it's sitting down in there, right? And look big and heavy, or do you want it to look a little skinnier and daintier? I think we're going to go like that, right? So then you have this extra piece. Give it a little mark, so you're saying going to take it off there, and you cut it off at your little mark. Okay. Now you can do that. You can use this little trick here, and later on when we do the mug project, you cut at an angle right across here. So now we have a pointy. See that pointy angle? So my angle was here. I'm going to keep the exact same angle on the other end. Anytime you're making a cylinder, this is a really nice way to hook it together. So you have these two angles that are this way, right? That way and that way as well. Same direction. You can score these up and down because we're going to hook them together. And dip each end in water because I don't have a brush. And when you come around and connect them, you'll notice that they overlap. A lot more material is overlapping than if you just push the two ends together. And when it's just the two ends you're pushing, you end up pinching here and you're pushing it and you end up smashing this, and it creates a thicker place, a taller place, because you're pinching it, trying to push it together. Here, when it's overlapped, you can actually pinch it up and down in the direction you want it to go together. Okay? So the water is sucking that together. You can take a little tool here, cross blend your seam line, the tops, the bottoms, the inside, curve with it. There we go. And that is going to put it together in a fashion where you can't even see where the loop begins and ends. Cross blend there. There we go. So now in the end, you can turn around, you can't find where it was connected, especially once you blend all these cracks. All right? So now we're going to hook that onto here instead of the feet. It'll look more like that. And I'm going to pinch down here in a circle and make it flange out to make it support the weight more. You'll notice how these go out. They're closed here and they flange out a little bit. That's because I just pinched this and pulled it out. It's just soft clay, right? So I'll manipulate it into a way that's more tripod effect and will hold it up better, right? If it's just straight up and down, it tips over really easy. Let's see, this one might show it too. Yeah, you get this. See this lip going out here? There, right? That's way more stable. Like an Eiffel Tower, you know, like this, in weight distribution. Yeah, I'm not going to do these feet, but you may want feet, so that's fine. All right, keep all this together. I do need to make a handle though with this thing we're making. So what do we got to do when we put this onto here? Score. Ooh. I'm back. All right, brush. Common problem. All your scoring, scratches there, is people will rub it out and then it smooths it all out and defeats the purpose of it, which is to help the clay come together and bind again. So if you put two smooth surfaces together with water, they just slide on each other. So I suggest you just dab it on there. Dab your water into your scored areas, get into that habit. Then you have a wet area that also has all the ridges still nice and defined. So when you go like this and put it on there, give it a little back and forth twist and push it down, it'll bind up really well. All right, so now while that's connecting, take a wood tool and start blending it down onto your pinch pot. Let me show you a little something. If I go like this and just if I just blend right here, I'm getting all these divots. But if I start at the top and come all the way down in one long motion, I get a little bit smoother. See that? All the way down. And I'm just doing enough to get rid of the line here and round it off. Just let that come. And by doing the whole thing, it also smooths out some of the cracks I had in the footing. We talked about flanging this out a little bit so it won't be so tippy and fragile to fall over. Looks a little scary like that, right? I need to dry my hands a little bit. Okay. So I'm going to pinch pot this as well. By pinching it, it gets a little thinner and it gets bigger. On this ring, angle it out, and it really doesn't take a whole lot to make it stable. I see my crack down here and get rid of those marks. In places you can't reach, a lot of times you can reach down in there with a paintbrush, smooth things out, get rid of tool marks. Okay, let's get this going out a little more. At some point, turn it back over and do a little test and look at it. Oh, that feels much more solid, right? Okay. Make sure I didn't crack anything up down here. Then there's my initial pinch pot with a footing. Structurally, you're about done if that's all you want. I'm going to put a little handle on here for fun, just to show that you can always do more. Don't do less than this, but you can do more. The other thing is required is you need some texture on there, or writing, one of the two. So I'll clean off this thing. And see, on a lot of these I did some writing. You can do a symbol, you can do something on there. If I can have a handle on the back, I can only do something on the side here. So I think I might just make a design or something. So a lot of like the ridges that push out when you push things in, you can wait till it's dry and you can rub that off. If you can't wait, you can come in here with this. It'll smooth it right down, the sponge, without covering your hole up again. If you use your finger, you'll push the ridges down into your line. There we go. Okay, so I made a circle there. Now the hard part. Notice I'm not using the razor blade to draw a picture. That is because it makes a super thin line. So if I'm trying to draw something on here, you might initially draw it with this, right? The problem with this line is that it's so thin, it creates an air bubble in there. When you glaze it, the glaze can't get in there because we dip it in buckets in this class. Or if you paintbrush this one color and this another color, you're fine. It's just, you're just delineating between two colors. But if you're trying to put glaze in that and wipe it off so it looks like, you know, the black inside these letters, that's not going to work because the air bubbles, it's really hard to get the glaze in there, especially with all these ridges sticking out. And then when you go to wipe these ridges down, you clog up half your hole. Your crack is all clogged up anyways. So if you do use it, you can use this hook side and you've got to drag it, and that opens up a nice V into the clay, and that's a better way to go. So you can maybe pre-sketch with this and then use this to clean everything out carefully. You can come up with shapes that are a little better there. A wider crack for glaze to get into. Okay, so that's the issue there. That's why I'm using this big fat one. It just gives me success really early on. I feel like I should pre-draw this. And maybe instead of trying to carve out a hole, I can just push it in when the clay is soft. Or those little circles that go on each side here. Just push in with a round thing. There we go. An interesting symbol there. Hanging symbol. So symbols are fine. You can write your name. You can just put textures. We have a bunch of rubber pads in the drawer over here that you can push onto the clay, and it'll give it textures of all different kinds. Right? Very linear stuff that looks like bamboo. Just all kinds of stuff. All right, there we go. So I have a symbol on there, and I'd essentially be done. But I'm going to add a little handle really quick here, and see if we can make it look a little nicer. So I'm making a coil, and we're going to make it a little skinnier on one end, a little fatter on the other end. Let's get this off here and see what we got. So see how it's thicker here, it tapers. Typically on a handle, the thicker end will be at the top of the cup, and this can come down to the bottom. You can curl it because it's getting thinner. It's easier to do something interesting and more fun. So let's see. Now, a lot of kids will worry that if I just connect this on, it's not going to be strong enough, you know, or it doesn't feel strong. But once it's fired, it has glass all over it and glaze, it's strong enough probably. So they'll hook over the top and smear it in like that, and I don't think it looks as nice. We could go up on this. So you can play with different looks. Do I want it to stand up high? Do I want it to go way down to the bottom? Do I want it to stay low? I think this rounded more could look better. Like that. Yeah, I'm going to go with something like that. So let's get this to curve and make a nice rounded shape. All right. Support the inside, give it a little push. Don't over smash it on. When you do things like this, you can easily smash that super hard and blend it out, and it doesn't look as nice. A lot of students will do that. Just the water will suck it together. Just give it a little bit of time. All right. Get the shape you want now. Get that wet, and you can come in here and just start blending it on like you did the base. So I'm always shooting for perfection, and then I never achieve it, of course, but at least I get something that is worth, hopefully that looks nice, and people say, oh, that's cool. But if you give up too soon, you're like, oh, I don't want it to be perfect, you know, then it really doesn't look nice. Okay, so we're done. But let me show you something that happens often with handles. All right, so that looks cool, huh? Nice little handle. From the side, it looks cool. You know, but you go like this, you see a problem, right? This needs to be over here. It's going up and over to the side. So I need to move it over to here if I want it to be centered, but it's just not centered, that's all. But I'm gonna call it good. Push that on there. And that will actually hold, you know, that's all they do with your mugs that you buy. Done. So the next video, we will put that in the kiln. We put it in the closet to dry. And when it's all dry, we'll fire it to bisque square. And then it's like this stuff. You know, it all looks like that. And we dip it in the buckets of colors you want. You can hand paint it, whatever you want to try and do. We'll talk a whole lesson on that. And you will, then we'll fire it again to a higher temperature, 2200 degrees. Then you'll get it back and you'll get a grade. So, good luck. Mr. Dunn out.